Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Uh, Pada kesempatan kali ini, dalam rangka untuk memenuhi penugasan ekonomi makro 2, kami akan membahas mengenai fiscal policy, monetary policy, and economic crisis. Pertama-tama, uh, kita akan membahas mengenai fiscal policy yang akan disampaikan oleh teman kita Putri Sabila Sari. Kepadanya kami persilahkan.
Okay, thank you for the chance. Pertama-tama saya akan membahas mengenai kebijakan fiskal dan pengurangan defisit anggaran. Pertama yaitu apa sih pengertian kebijakan fiskal? What is the definition of fiscal policy? Kebijakan fiskal adalah strategi yang digunakan oleh pemerintah untuk mengelola keuangan negara, termasuk bagaimana mereka memperoleh pendapatan seperti pajak dan penerimaan lainnya, serta bagaimana mereka menggunakannya untuk berbagai kebutuhan negara seperti membiayai proyek infrastruktur, memberikan bantuan sosial, dan membayar gaji pegawai negeri. Nah, tujuan utama dari kebijakan fiskal ini adalah menjaga stabilitas ekonomi, mendorong pertumbuhan ekonomi, dan memastikan kesejahteraan masyarakat. So, fiscal policy is a strategy used by the government to manage state finance, including how they generate revenue, such as tax and other income sources, and how they use it for various national needs, such as funding infrastructure projects, providing social assistance, and paying civil servants. The main purpose of fiscal policy is to maintain economic stability, promote economic growth, and ensure public welfare. Nah, pemerintah merumuskan kebijakan fiskal untuk memengaruhi seberapa besar orang-orang berbelanja atau konsumsi, dan seberapa banyak bisnis yang berinvestasi, dan seberapa banyak lapangan kerja yang tersedia. Hal ini dilakukan melalui dua instrumen utama, yaitu pajak dan belanja negara. The government formulates fiscal policy to influence how much people spend, consumption, how much business invest, and how many jobs are available. This is done through two main instruments, tax and government spending. Nah, selain itu, kebijakan fiskal digunakan untuk menyesuaikan kondisi ekonomi agar tetap stabil. Jika ekonomi sedang lesu atau mengalami resesi nih, pemerintah bisa menggunakan kebijakan fiskal ekspansif, yaitu dengan menambah pengeluaran negara atau menurunkan pajak. Nah, tujuannya apa? Nah, tujuannya itu adalah untuk meningkatkan daya beli masyarakat dan mendorong aktivitas bisnis sehingga ekonomi bisa tumbuh kembali. Additionally, fiscal policy is used to adjust economic conditions to remain stable. If the economy is sluggish or in recession, the government can use an expansionary fiscal policy by increasing government spending or lowering tax. The goal is to boost people's purchasing power and encourage business activities so the economy can grow again. Nah, sebaliknya, jika ekonomi terlalu panas atau inflasi terlalu tinggi, harga-harga naik dengan cepat. Pemerintah bisa menerapkan kebijakan fiskal kontraktif. Ini dilakukan dengan mengurangi pengeluaran negara atau menaikkan pajak agar jumlah uang yang beredar di masyarakat berkurang, sehingga laju inflasi itu bisa ditekan. On the other hand, if the economy is overheating or inflation is too high, prices rising rapidly, the government can implement a contractionary fiscal policy. This is done by reducing government spending or raising tax so that the amount of money circulating in society decrease, thus controlling inflation. Nah, selain menjaga stabilitas ekonomi, kebijakan fiskal juga bertujuan untuk mengurangi ketimpangan ekonomi. Pemerintah melakukan ini melalui redistribusi pendapatan, misalnya dengan memberikan subsidi atau bantuan sosial kepada kelompok masyarakat yang kurang mampu. Nah, pemerintah juga bisa menerapkan pajak progresif, yaitu pajak yang lebih tinggi untuk orang-orang yang penghasilannya besar. Besides maintaining economic stability, fiscal policy also aims to reduce economic inequality. Government does this through income redistribution, for example, by providing subsidies or social assistance to disadvantaged groups. The government can also apply progressive tax, where higher income individuals pay higher tax rates. Selain itu, kebijakan fiskal juga digunakan untuk menciptakan lapangan kerja. Misalnya, pemerintah dapat membiayai proyek-proyek infrastruktur besar yang membutuhkan banyak tenaga kerja nih. Nah, dengan demikian, tingkat pengangguran dapat ditekan. Lalu daya beli masyarakat pun meningkat dan ekonomi dapat tumbuh dengan lebih baik. Additionally, fiscal policy is also used to create jobs. For example, the government can fund large infrastructure projects that require many works. This can reduce unemployment rates, increase people purchasing power, and boost economic growth. Lalu, mengenai pengertian defisit anggaran. Sebelumnya kalian udah tahu nggak sih apa itu defisit anggaran? Nah, di sini saya akan menjelaskan apa itu pengertian defisit anggaran. What is definition of budget deficit? Nah, defisit anggaran itu terjadi ketika pengeluaran pemerintah lebih besar daripada pendapatannya dalam suatu periode tertentu. Dengan kata lain, pemerintah menghabiskan lebih banyak uang nih daripada yang mereka dapatkan dari pajak, bea cukai, atau sumber pendapatan lainnya. A budget deficit occurs when government spending exceeds its revenue within a certain period. In other words, the government spends more money than it earns from tax, duties, or other income source. Nah, untuk menutupi kekurangan ini, pemerintah biasanya meminjam uang, baik dari dalam negeri maupun luar negeri. Misalnya, pemerintah bisa menerbitkan obligasi atau mengambil pinjaman dari lembaga keuangan internasional. Namun, jika defisit ini berlangsung terlalu lama nih dan terus bertambah, itu bisa juga berdampak buruk bagi perekonomian. To cover this shortfall, the government usually borrows money either from domestic or foreign source. For example, the government can issue bonds or take loans from international financial institutions. However, if this deficit persists and continues to grow, it can negatively impact the economy. Yang terakhir nih, bagaimana sih cara mengurangi defisit anggaran itu? How to reduce budget deficit? Pertama yaitu mengurangi pengeluaran negara or reducing government spending. Nah, jadi pemerintah bisa menekan defisit dengan cara memangkas pengeluaran nih, seperti mengurangi subsidi atau gaji pegawai negeri. Namun, langkah ini dapat menurunkan daya beli masyarakat dan menghambat pertumbuhan ekonomi. The government can reduce the deficit by cutting expenses, such as reducing subsidies or civil servant salaries. However, this approach can lower people purchasing power and hinder economic growth. Lalu yang kedua itu meningkatkan penerimaan negara or increasing government revenue. Pemerintah dapat meningkatkan pajak seperti pajak penghasilan, PPN, atau pajak korporasi. Namun pajak yang terlalu tinggi nih dapat mengurangi konsumsi masyarakat dan menghambat investasi bisnis. The government can increase tax, such as income tax, VAT, or corporate tax. However, excessively high tax can reduce public consumption and hinder business investment. Nah, intinya nih mengurangi defisit anggaran perlu dilakukan dengan hati-hati. Jika terlalu fokus pada pengurangan pengeluaran atau peningkatan pajak tanpa mempertimbangkan dampaknya, perekonomian bisa melambat dan kesejahteraan masyarakat pun terganggu. In, as, in essence, reducing the budget deficit must be done carefully. If there is too much focus on reducing spending or increasing tax without considering the impact, the economy could slow down and public welfare may be harmed. Sekian penjelasan yang dapat saya sampaikan. Mungkin saya akan kembalikan ke Haikal.
Thank you, Putri Sabilasari. Okay, next slide. Okay, in this slide, I will talk about what is monetary policy. Okay, from definition. So, quoting from the second series of books on monetary policy in Indonesia, published by the Center for Bank Indonesia Education Studies, this monetary policy refers to a series of action taken by monetary authorities, especially the central bank, to control monetary variables in order to achieve macroeconomic stability. Okay, we're looking at the history of economic thought. Monetary policy developed through the thoughts of economists from various era. Okay, one of the most influential figure was John Maynard Keynes, who introduced the idea that governments and central bank should actively manage the economy through fiscal and monetary policies. And also in Keynesian theory, monetary policy is used to adjust the money supply and interest rate to boost aggregate demand, especially during an economic crisis. On the other hand, Milton Friedman, as a pioneer of monetarism, argued that money supply is the main factor determining inflation and long-term economic growth. So we can agree that monetary policy is a series of actions taken by the central bank to control the money supply and interest rate in order to achieve macroeconomic stability, keep inflation under control, promote sustainable economic growth, and ensure balance in the labor market. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So we have the main instrument of monetary policy. The first is interest rate, and then open market operation and minimum banking reserve. Okay, the interest rate. Interest rate is the price one pays when borrowing money from a bank. If the central bank raises interest rate, borrowing become more expensive. So people and companies borrow less. This can help curb inflation. Conversely, if interest rates are lowered, loans become cheaper. So people are more encouraged to spend and invest, which in turn boosts economic growth. And then the second is open market operation. Open market operation is a way for central banks to control the amount of money in circulation by selling or buying securities, such as bonds. So if the central bank sell bonds, there will be less money in the public as they buy the securities. Conversely, if the central bank buys bond from the public, the money in circulation will increase, allowing the economy to be more active. And then the third and last, minimum banking reserve. The central bank also regulates how much money must keep and not lend to customer. If the central bank increase the amount of reserve that must be kept, the amount of money that can be loaned to the public decrease. So spending also decreases. Conversely, if the amount of reserve is lower, banks can lend more money, thus encouraging economic activity. Next slide. Okay, there is one of monetary policy. It's called monetary expansion. So what is monetary expansion? Expansionary monetary policy is a policy implemented by the central bank to promote economic growth by increasing the money supply. This step is taken when the economy is experiencing a slowdown or recession, with the aim of accelerating economic recovery and increasing investment, activity, and consumption. Okay, next slide. Okay, thank you. So, monetary expansion has an effect, positive and negative. When a central bank implements an expansionary monetary policy, one of the main steps it takes is to lower interest rate, right? So this reduction makes borrowing costs cheaper for households and companies. As a result, people are more encouraged to take out loans for consumption, such as buying a house or a vehicle, while firms are more motivated to invest in business expansion or purchase of productive asset. With increased investment and consumption, aggregate demand in the economy rise, which in turn drive gross domestic product or GDP growth. Okay, in a broader context, increased investment also accelerate job creation. Companies that get cheap capital tend to expand their operation, thus increasing demand for labor. With more people working and having income, public consumption also increase, further accelerating economic growth. However, the effectiveness of this mechanism depends on overall economic condition, such as the level of business confidence and available production capacity. So there is a consequence. One of the consequence of expansionary monetary policy is an increase in the amount of money circulation in the economy. With the increase in the amount of money available, people have greater purchasing power, which can push up the price of goods and services. If the increase in money supply is not matched by production growth, uh, inflationary pressure may arise under certain circumstances. So moderate inflation is acceptable as it signals economic growth. However, if the money supply increase excessively, inflation may become uncontrollable, leading to a decline in people's purchasing power and economic instability. Therefore, the central bank must maintain a balance between boosting economic growth and controlling inflation for expansionary monetary policy to remain effective and sustainable. Okay, that's all from me. For the next slide, we will present by Ayu Fitri Rasida. You.
Okay, thank you for Haikal. Okay, and then the next slide, we're going to talk about the economic crisis as in macroeconomic instability. Economic crisis is in macroeconomic instability occurs when an economy faces several disruptions in key areas like government finance, banking, exchange rate, or inflation. These crises can cause recession, inflation surge, or financial system collapse. Some of the most common type of crisis include the first one is debt crisis. It usually happens when a country borrows excessively and struggles to repay it, and it leads to austerity measure, lower government spending, and then economic slowdowns. The second one is banking crisis. It occurs when banks fail due to bad loans or financial stability, and it can lead to credit shortage, making it harder to businesses and consumers to borrow. The third one is currency crisis. When a country currency lose value rapidly, causing high inflation and economic uncertainty, it often triggered by investor panic, high national debt, or loss of foreign reserve. And the last one is inflation crisis. It occurs when inflation rises uncontrollably, eroding purchasing power. In extreme case, it leads to hyperinflation, where price double or maybe triple within months. So economic crisis reduce GDP, increase the employment, and destabilize financial market. Some crises like inflation crisis can be caused by shocks to aggregate supply, such as rising oil prices. That I will be talk the next slide. Shocks in aggregate supply, as in oil price increase. A supply shock is a sudden event that significantly alters production costs, impacting the overall economy. One of the most critical negative supply shock is an oil price. So, why does oil matter? Oil is a key input in nearly every industry. It's used for transportation, you use it for cars, for truck, for ships, even for airplane, and then it also powers factories and electricity production, and it also essential for plastic, chemical, and manufacturing production. When oil price rise sharply, production costs increase and causing aggregate supply to shift to the left. Now we're going to talk about macroeconomic effect of an oil shock. The first one is a higher production cost that leads to lower output or GDP. In this case, businesses face higher costs, reducing their ability to produce goods and services, and it also make GDP growth slow down, sometimes leading up to a recession. The second one is higher inflation or cost push inflation. Businesses pass higher costs to consumers by raising the price, leading to an inflation, unlike the demand pull inflation that happened to high demand. This is cost push inflation that driven by higher input costs. The third one is higher unemployment. If businesses reduce production due to the high costs, they may cut jobs, and this will make unemployment increase, worsening the economic slowdown. And the fourth one is risk of stagflation. Stagflation is a dangerous combination of high inflation and low growth. Policymakers face a dilemma in this situation as if they raise interest rates to fight inflation, growth will slow even more. But if they keep interest rates low, inflation may spiral out of control. So the real world example of an oil crisis is the 1973 oil crisis. The 1973 oil crisis was one of the most significant economic shock in modern history. It was triggered by political tension in the Middle East and had long-lasting economic consequence in worldwide. So what actually happened that time? First one, the Yom Kippur War broke out between Israel and Arab nations such as Egypt and Syria. And in response to Western support for Israel, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, led by the Saudi Arabia, cut oil production and imposed an embargo on the US and several European nations. This caused sudden and massive reduction in global oil supply. And the second one is oil price skyrocketed. The price crude oil jumped from $3 per barrel to $12 per barrel. This is a 400% increase, and this lead to higher fuel costs, increasing transportation expenses, and rising costs of goods. The third one is the economic consequences. The inflation surge, meaning higher oil price increase the cost of production for businesses that leading to cost push inflation. The economic growth slowed, meaning industries that relies on oil, such as manufacturing, transportation, they struggle with higher costs. And then unemployment eventually rose. Many businesses cut jobs to compensate for the rising costs, and then the stagnation occurred. The US and many other countries suffered from high inflation and slow economic growth, a rare and difficult economic condition. And how does the government respond? The US imposed fuel rationing, introducing speed limit to save fuel, and encourage energy conservation. Some countries also began looking for alternative energy sources, but the crisis exposed the world dependence on oil. And that is my take on this presentation. I will give it back to Haikal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayu. We have the last slide for the conclusion. Number one is fiscal policy. Maintain to reducing budget deficit can help long-term stability, but may slow growth. And then for monetary policy, expansionary policy, monetary policy, it can boost growth, but may cause inflation. And then last, supply shocks and crisis. Oil price increases can cause inflation and slow growth, requiring careful policy response. Oke, that's all for us. Terima kasih kepada Putri dan juga Ayu. Semoga apa yang kita sampaikan bisa menjadi pembelajaran dan juga menambah wawasan kita semua. Terima kasih sekali lagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.